Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another match from Locals. So I think I'm going to be uploading all of the other local matches as YouTube memberships in raw footage, so if you want to see those, that's fine. But I'm going to be choosing at least one of those every week to be able to comment over and kind of do this type of a format and, have actually something for everyone else to enjoy. So this is going to be Imperial versus Megidramon, and after playing this match, it is a very polarizing match. That's why it's only like 15 minutes long for basically a set of 2 out of 3. Because, spoiler alert, I ended up losing both of the games because Imperial just has the tools to be able to handle what Megidramon is going to be throwing at it, and Megidramon isn't exactly the fastest deck to be able to deal with a set up Imperial. So as far as the gameplay goes, looks like I'm going to be starting at game number 1, and I'm going to be immediately using a training card just to try to dig and get something going. My opponent on their first turn is doing the classic Vmon in Raising and setting up a Davis and Ken, so that way they could kind of just explode literally next turn. So I did end up finding a rookie, I Digivolve that into Raising, and then I'm going to be hard playing a rookie to try to dig it for something more useful that I could actually try to use to advance my game states, so I ended up taking a level 5, which is the key level 5 for how this deck works. But because my opponent is Imperial, they're just going to be able to, off of the Ken and Davis, play out a Vmon, dig for whatever they need, and then they probably have the ability to just combo off here because the Vmon actually has the cost reduction on it, so this only costs 1 to Evo, which means that they could play another level 4 and then be able to DNA and get going from there before Megidramon literally has anything set up, and then Megidramon doesn't really have the tools to be able to handle a level 5 or even a level 6 sitting on their field. So my opponent is debating about attacking, so they do end up attacking. They don't get any card draws, they thought they did, and their Digimon unfortunately gets deleted, but they're just going to set up a second Davis Ken and pass the turn. So it looks like they were still kind of trying to bank on the card draw helping them get into the state that they needed, but security was just good enough there. So I'm going to be Digivolving up and moving out of Raising because I have to do something, otherwise I'm just going to get blown out, and this actually was a mistake. I shouldn't have moved out. I should have just Digivolved, blew up his one Digimon, held something in Raising, because at this point I believe I didn't have the full combo or set up to be able to OTK the opponent, so this was definitely a misplay on my part because I actually have committed to the field and gave him something to interact with. So I'm just going to be going up my lines, setting up my plays, so hopefully if they didn't have anything, then next turn I OTK them. So that's why I'm setting up like the analog and just trying to make certain plays to be able to put them in a slightly awkward position. So I am tapering my evolution lines. Again, this was a huge misplay on my part. I should have just left a whole Digimon in Raising, so that way I at least have something to move out and attempt to interact with. In the end, I don't ultimately think it mattered, but just from a player standpoint, it is a very important thing to note. So they're going to use both of their Davis and Kens to be able to play out Wormmon and Vmon. Vmon will let him gain a memory for the Wormmon being played out, and then the Wormmon lets him evolve into the level 4 that was in the trash, so that way he actually is going to use the piece that he potentially was missing, and he now found the Stingmon to be able to Digivolve into the Stingmon, and now he's good to go for a DNA play. So when he DNAs, he's effectively going to gain 4 memory, 2 from the Digimon, 2 from the Tamers, strip all of my inheritables away, which means I lose all of my on-delete effects, which feels really bad, especially when you're trying to bank and count on those on-delete effects to actually save you and do something. Right now, they get to do their whole Imperialdramon thing, lock down my field, and then they could start multi-attacking. My level 5, it does have retaliation, so they are kind of stopping and thinking, hey, because retaliation is by card effect, I could actually use partition to be able to DNA if I have another one to continue my aggression. It means he doesn't get the security check, but it is a playline that they definitely were thinking about. So when it comes to the rest of their abilities, they have some pretty decent DP boosting because of the Vmon. So if they were to go into another level 6 Digimon, they're not necessarily super afraid because they know the vast majority of my cards' DP is going to be capped at 13 when their cards are either going to be having jamming or 13 or 14. So it really doesn't necessarily seem like it matters. So they are going to break my partition, and then I could choose to use the effect of the option card because my Digimon was deleted. So I believe I am going to be using it just to have something on the field, but I also understand that if I use it, then I'm basically going to be forfeiting that Digimon because they're just going to re-DNA and then get rid of my Digimon. So I'm choosing to break it for the search, so that way I could at least try to get something going. I could have held off and waited on that, but again, I really don't think it matters because of just the state that my field is currently in, because I don't really have anything to be able to respond with. So they are just going to go all the way up into a Hexablaumon, not past turn, so they could actually swing with the Hexablaumon. It is going to be 2 checks, so I do get a scramble trigger on it. So I do get to have something on the field at the very least, which seems like it's okay, but under Hexablaumon, if I don't have more sources than them, then I just literally can't play the game at all because I can't make my attack, and that's where my abilities are coming from, is the level 5's mid-attack, because I'm trying to get the Megidramon's end of attack ability, and if my Megidramon also can't even attack, then that just makes this matchup significantly harder. So even though his stack isn't super large, I just really don't have anything, so I can't attack. I could try to evolve up, but again, I can't attack, so it's just kind of an auto loss position from here, as you'll see, just because Hexablaumon floodgated Megidramon from even being able to play the game. So I was just like, oh, I can't even attack, so what's the point? Because I'm just going to be wasting time evolving up and doing nothing just to pass turn for them to make the attack into game anyway. So that's kind of how game number 1 goes. They just went into Hexablaumon, won the game, did a lot of aggression off of utilizing my retaliation against me, because partition is an incredibly strong keyword. And yeah. So while we're in the middle of the shuffle transition in between games, if you enjoyed this type of content, you already know what to do. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to stay up to date when I go live next. As I already mentioned before, feel free to also join my membership to be able to get some more content out of me. But going on to the next game. The second game is going to play very similarly to the first one, so it's just a very tough matchup because if Megidramon can't attack, you're not playing the game. If Megidramon can't Digivolve and gain lots of benefits, you're not playing the game. And if they're able to get rid of a lot of your resources, then you're just not playing the game. So the fact that Imperialdramon has aces to out my win attacks, has Hexablaumon to be able to stop me from attacking, has a whole bunch of tools to source strip my Digimon to keep their on-delete effects from basically non-existing unless I go into it and do it that one turn. Just again, really makes it a very tough matchup. So while a lot of people think Megidramon is this unstoppable force, there is a lot of weaknesses and deficiencies in the deck, which is going to be highlighted here on full display, because it still does take some time to get some setup, and it does still require you to actually make very specific particular actions that the opponent then could potentially have outs or answers for. So even though there's not like a whole lot of grave or trash hate, you don't necessarily care about that because all of your stuff is deleting as is and you're doing that more proactively, but it is what it is. So I am electing to go first this game, and no rookie starts, so I'm just going to be flipping 3 to try to add any of the Digimon back into my hand and fill up my trash at the same time. So I do add the rookie and trash the level 5s, and my opponent is just going to start by doing a Rookie in Raising and Searcher, so that way they could try to find the parts and pieces that they need in order to get going as quickly as possible. So now I just use my Rookie to evolve in Raising, and I'm just going to continue to try to dig, so I could try to set up my trash and put the cards that I want in my hand at the same time. So I put the level 4s in the trash this time, and I took the other level 3 Digimon, so that way I could X evolve to build as big of a stack as I can to maybe try to out a Hexabalmon play. So my opponent is going to be Digivolving into the level 4, and because of the Vmon, he gets to gain a memory, so it's effectively a 1-cost Evo. So now he Evos for actually 2 into the XV, and then he could DNA into a level 5 Digimon. This is the weaker level 5, but it doesn't matter because it could still multi-attack, which is really good in terms of pressure to try to threaten my security as much as possible, because the more that they threaten my security, the less time that I have to be able to set up and resolve everything that I need to, because I am basically a do-nothing OTK deck. I'm just trying to set up this perfect line of play and do that ad nauseum, rinse and repeat per game, and it's not necessarily the most interesting of plays, but it is basically what the deck is designed to do. So when my opponent Digivolves into Hexablaumon, that kind of just takes away all of the steam, because now I have to build this ginormous stack in order to actually be able to out him. So I do need the egg, the level 3, the X level 3, the level 4, the X level 4, and the X level 5 in order for my level 6 Digimon to be able to swing. So that's just a lot to ask for, and it's now putting me on a way slower clock, because if I move out, my Digimon really isn't doing anything but being susceptible to be removed or interacted with, which is something I generally don't want to try to do, is give the opponent stuff to interact with. Even though right now they don't really have anything, I just figured I'm still just going to need to try to do something, so I'm going to be hard playing the Guilmon to try to search out my parts and pieces. I did know that I had the Calling in my hand to be able to grab back the parts and pieces that were trashed from the analogs, so that was able to at least get me my level 4 and my level 5 pretty easily. So now I'm just looking for basically the rest of the X pieces in order to try to kind of do something, even though it's a suboptimal combo, because off of the X level 5, I can't Digivolve mid-attack. I wouldn't even be able to make the attack under Hexablow to begin with, so my opponent's basically just going to run away with this entire game because of Hexablaumon. And because it is the Rookie that's going to be giving the Hexablaumon plus 2000 DP, he is actually able to live through the security because he's going to be sitting at 14k, and again, as I already explained before, the most threatening thing in my security is 13k. So maybe that's something that I would consider trying to fix and remedy, but in those niche situations, I really don't think it's that important. And if I did, let's just say, have any of the Gallantmons in my hand, they all miss the Hexablaumon because during my turn, he's at 12k, and that's like the weird, awkward point where I can't really interact with him. And I didn't necessarily have the setup to make a medieval play. My deck personally isn't running medieval, but if I did have medieval, even that wouldn't be an out to just a solo Hexablaumon, because then I would need more of my Digimon to suspend, and I only had like 1 or 2, but it is a potential out. It's not the greatest out, but it is an out. But by the time I would play it, my opponent's already setting something up, and yeah, it's already just looking bad. But that's assuming I even had a medieval in my hand to begin with, which I very clearly didn't. So medieval is a good answer, it's not the best answer, and it's asking for more time and setup than what my opponent is allowing, because we're both kind of memory choking each other. But because he's already set up and his cards are more efficient than mine at doing what they're supposed to do, yeah, it's just not looking good. So I go up into the level 5, and I realize I can't even swing with the level 5 to go into the level 6. I'm looking for my X level 5, counting all my cards, and there it is. It's a couple of cards deep, so it just makes it very, very awkward to play the game at that point, where he's just going to move out, DNA into another thing, and just start punching face really hard, really quickly, and I was unable to actually do anything that game, just because they went into a fast level 6 floodgate to lock me out of the game, essentially, before I could even get going, because the vast majority of Megidramon's cards don't necessarily delete anything when you're digivolving. I think like the level 4s and the X level 5 do, but outside of that, you really don't have the ability to actually interact with the opponent. And that's going to be it for this set of games. I hope to see you all in the next video.